people can see it, those who have just joined us. So that is the paper that we shall start with. We are doing the last question of that paper. Last week we covered the so last week we did question 4 and question 3, I believe. Yes, we did question 3 and question 4. So today let's do question 5 and question 1 of the other paper. When we do those questions, we have covered pretty much the 80% of what research methods is. And then next week on Sunday, we are going to finish up with our question that always comes. And then we are also going to do another very important question, one on the Gantt chart. The other one we are going to do, it will be on the theoretical and conceptual framework. Hello? Okay, alright. Okay, let me just change. Just give me a second. Let me change. Okay, let me just change networks. Give me a second. That is what we are going to do. Okay, so question 5. Let me do this. So we are doing question 5. Let me do this. Yeah, so I was saying next week we're going to finish up with a question that comes always. So please be around next week on Sunday, and next week Saturday evening we are meeting for corporate governance. So question 5. Okay. Alright, so let's start. We are on question 5 of the paper that I've just shared on the group for us who are joining us. The question says, your company, that was supposed to be your company has a total of 360 employees in 4 different categories. You have 36 managers, you have 54 drivers, you have 90 administrative staff, you have 180 production staff. The question is, how many from each category should be included in a stratified random sample of 20, of the size 20? So that is our question right there. So we have our question, and what do we do? So of course, for us who missed, we kind of combine both explanations, and from time to time, yeah, we do that. So we labored, I believe, last week talking about the different types of sampling techniques that you have. And as I said, if you can remember, I said we have 2 broad categories of sampling in research. So we have what we call probabilistic sampling techniques, and we have what we call non-probabilistic sampling techniques. So probabilistic sampling techniques are used mostly, not almost always, but mostly, usually, we use the probabilistic sampling when we are doing quantitative research. And then we use the non-probabilistic sampling techniques when we are doing qualitative research. You can combine both if you are doing a mixed method research. So we have 4 under each category. In your probabilistic sampling techniques, the first one we have, the most basic, is the simple random sampling technique. That is your most basic technique. I'm not writing, so don't worry. There's nothing I'm writing on the screen. I'm just saying. And then after the simple random, we have the systematic sampling technique. So we have number 1, the simple random sampling. The second one is the systematic sampling technique. The third one is your stratified random sampling. The last one is your cluster sampling. Yeah, I don't know if you have done examples. If we haven't, then I'm sure we're going to do examples on in all of those. It should be next week, I think. Yeah, next week I think we'll do about an hour 30 if people have time. Okay, so that is your probabilistic sampling techniques, the most common ones. We also have the non-probabilistic sampling techniques. So the most common non-probabilistic, or the ones that you are going to use often if you are doing a qualitative study, the sampling techniques you're going to use are, the first one can be not either. The first one is a purposive sampling technique. The second one is called a convenience sampling technique. The third one is quota sampling. The fourth one is snowball sampling. So those four are the major ones. We have others also, but those four are the major ones that you use for your qualitative data, or for your non-probabilistic sampling. So here in this question, we have been given a stratified random sample. Now, just to help you understand, just here, let me just clarify in case you find a question tomorrow when you're studying. So people get confused between two types of sampling techniques, especially two. So the first one is this one right here, the one we're talking about here, the stratified random sampling. The second one is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling. Now, what is the difference between stratified random sampling and the cluster sampling? So I'm going to use a GSB example to make the two differences, to make the two clear. So let's assume that GSB has let's just assume GSB is a school. Now let's say GSB has 5 schools. Yeah, 5, or let's say it has 5 departments. Let's call them departments. Let's say GSB has 5 departments. Okay? So GSB has 5 departments. Now, if you have been requested to do a stratified random sampling of the 5 departments of GSB, what you do is, these departments, number one, they're going to be classified based on the similar characteristics that they share. So that is a very important thing about stratified random sampling. Your sample shares a definite set of characteristics. It can be male or female, so those can be stratums, or your strata. Your male or female, it can be every person who is 25 years old who was born on the 25th of December. Yeah, so that can be your stratum. Now, if GSB has 5 departments, let's just give them random names. Let's say accounts. It has the accounts department, which is there. It has the assistant registrar, AR, assistant registrar, registrar. Let's pick another department. Let's say it has the procurement department. Let's say it has a procurement department. Let's say it has the, so we have the let's call it student affairs department. Student affairs department. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let's pick the last department. Yeah, let's say we have lecturers department. Yeah, let's just pick random names. So let's say we have the lecturers department. Okay, now these are the 5 departments that GSB has hypothetically. Now, if you were employed by GSB to conduct a stratified sample or random sampling of GSB departments, what you would do is, in each of the 5 departments, based on the sample size you want, okay, let's say you are looking for a sample size of 30, which is a minimum for quantitative studies, by the way. So 20 is a minimum. In case you're doing a quantitative study, 30 must be your minimum sample size for you to have, what do you call them? for you to be able to generalize your results and to have statistically significant results. Yes, so that is the word, statistically significant results. So the minimum for a quantitative is 30. For a samples, for a qualitative, you can go as low as 1 if you can justify why you are using 1. Yeah, if you are doing a research on the president of Zambia, you don't have 2 presidents. If you are doing a qualitative study on the president, you can have 1 as your sample size, which is still okay. Okay, so let's get back to our example. Let's say you have been told, or you have figured out that JSB has, let's say, 300 staff or 250 staff. This is the combined number. Now, your sample size, after you have calculated using the Taroyamane or the whatever formula you used, you have found that the sample size you need in all the departments, the combined sample size is 30 people, or 30 in all departments. That is the sample size for JSB departments. Now, when you are going to collect your data using stratified random sampling, what you are going to do is you have already classified your departments based on their characteristic feature, which is they perform a certain defined function within each department. We have the accounts, which is accounts, of course. We have the assistant registrar, which handles the personal issues and student issues sometimes. We have the procurement department, which does the procurement. We have the student affairs, which just does with students. We have the lecturers department, which handles department. So these lecturers, so these are defined characteristics of these departments. Now, what you are going to do is, based on your sample size, you are going to sample depending on the number of employees in each department. Let's say you have 10 here, you have 20 there, you have 15 here, let's say you have 100 here, and then let's say you have so this is 100 plus 15, 115. Let's put it at 20. Let's say 20 here, so that this number becomes 150, and then plus 100 in the lecturers department, so that we make the number 250. Yeah, the population. Now, these are your numbers in each of these departments. Oh, by the way, there's a question that comes similar. That's why I'm laboring to explain this thing, so that you don't get confused. So, when you're using stratified random sampling, you know that there are 10 members of staff here, you know that there are 20, you know that there are 25 here, that there are 100 here, there are 100 there. Now, what you do is, you are going to get a proportion in the account department. The proportion that is proportionate to the total population, to find how many people you must get in the accounts department. The same thing with the registrar's department. You are going to find the proportion of the registrar's department, this number, to the population, to find the sample size that you can get. The same thing for the procurement and for the student affairs. So you're finding the proportionate number in each department. Here you can find that it's 2, for example. Here it can be 5. Here it can be 10, or it can be 5 also. Here it can be 10, and then here it can be maybe 8. Yeah, so these are the proportions of your total population. So these 5, these 2, this 8, and this 10 will make up your sample size. So that is how you kind of do stratified random sampling. Now, what if you have been requested to conduct a study on JSB, but this time they have requested you to use a cluster sampling technique? So if you are going to use cluster sampling, you are going to, so cluster sampling is majorly mostly used for geographically dispersed populations. So this is an oversimplification of cluster sampling, but bear with us. Let's take it as a model, and then we are going to scale it to the entire country. So let's say these departments are geographically dispersed in Zambia. You have the accounts province. You have the accounts department in Western Province, so Western. You have the assistant registrars in Northern. You have the procurement in Lusaka. You have the affairs in Central. You have the what is this lecturers department, for example. You can put it in Muchinga, yeah, Muchinga Province. So these departments are geographically dispersed. Now, if you have been requested to do cluster sampling, what you do is you are going to sample not within each of these departments. You are going to sample the entire department. So let's say, for example, you need a sample size of 4 departments. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 departments or 3 departments. So you can use random sampling, for example, to sample your 3 departments. Let's say you're going to pick the accounts department, you're going to pick the procurement department, and then you're going to pick the lecturers department. Now, once you pick your 3 departments, you're going to conduct a study on all the personnel, on all the employees in those departments. So that is about your cluster sampling. You can do the same thing for schools. Let's say Zambia has about 250 universities, or let's say 80 universities. Those universities are spread across the country. We have some in Eastern, some in Lusaka, some in Northern, some in Wapula. No, not Wapula. Yeah, Wapula, I think. Do you have a university there? Mr. Mlanga? Oh, I think it's gone out. So, and then we have some in Northern Province, probably in Northwestern and other provinces. So if you're going to use stratified, the cluster sampling, what you're going to do is, if you're conducting a study on lecturers' performance in those universities, in these universities, you can sample maybe, let's say, 10 universities in different provinces. And then once you sample those 10, you are going to interview every single lecturer in those universities. Everyone will be interviewed in your 10 universities. So that is about cluster sampling. So just take note of that as we start answering this question. It will become very important as you go along and do the other questions. Okay, so let's start now. Now, after doing that explanation, let's do our question 5. So this is stratified random sampling. Now, to determine, so you can say, to determine the number of employees to include from each category in a stratified random sample. What is the size? The size is 20 for us. We use the following formula. So you're going to say sample size for each stratum. So stratum is like the sample size from each department. So how many people are you going to pick from the accounts department? So that is called a stratum, the department. So the sample size for each stratum is equal to the stratum size divided by your total population. So stratum size divided by your total population times the total sample size. Okay, so the question is saying how many from each category should be included in a stratified random sampling of 20. So the question is asking us, what sample size from each stratum must we include in our study? So this is a formula you use. It is a stratum size, or the department size, if you want, the department size divided by the population for that entire school or the entire company organization times the total sample size, the sample size that you want. Okay, so let us start. So to answer this question, make sure that you answer it logically. Make sure that your workings are clear. So this is where we start from. Our sample size for each stratum. Once we have that, I'm going to say number one. What is our first thing that we have? Managers. So managers, how many managers are in this company? So this company has about 36 managers. Now, going back to our formula, this 36 is called our stratum size. The total population that we have been given is right in your case study. Your company has a total of 360 employees in 4 different categories. So what we do here is, for our managers, we are going to say the stratum size 36 divided by your population 360, and then multiply this by the sample size that you want, 20. So this means that how many managers should we get from the population that will be part of the sample size of 20? So that is kind of the rough interpretation of what we have just done here. So please, if you have a calculator, you can shout the number. So just do 36 divided by 360 times 20. I don't have a calculator with me, so please you can help with the calculation. Okay, so it's 2. And then the second one is we have drivers. So drivers, we have 54 drivers. So we do the same thing again. It is 54 divided by the total population times the sample size. What would be our proportion of what would be the sample size for the drivers? So this will be a 3. Okay, and then the third one, we have our administrative staff. We have our admin staff. So admin, we have about 90 staff members. So it will be 90 over 360 times 20. You can also do the math there. What is 5? Okay, so it's 5. And then the last one is the production staff. So for the production staff, we have about 180 staff members. So it will be 180 over 360 times 20. What will be the number there? Okay, so here to be 10. So 10. Okay, so once you have written this, we are going to say therefore, or thus our managers must be 2, our drivers must be 3, and then we have our admin staff. Our admin staff should be what? Admin 5 should be 5, and then our production staff must be 10. So that when you add these numbers, the total must give you a sample size of 20. So that is what that is how you answer that question 5A. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, all right, we can continue. All right, so question B. So B says, a supermarket manager wants to know if customers would pay slightly higher prices to have computers available throughout the store to help them locate items. An interviewer is posted at the entrance door and asked to collect a sample of 100 opinions by asking questions of the next person who came to the door each time she had completed an interview. Question B1. What type of sampling technique was used? Describe the type of research approach applicable for the above scenario. Present two advantages of using interviews in the above scenario. Okay, so what type of sampling technique was used? So once again, as I said, those sampling techniques are always important. Know them, know what they mean, know how you use them, know when and where you use them. So here's a case study. You have posted someone at the entrance of a door, and then you have kind of asked them, just collect information from 100 opinions. So collect 100 opinions from 100 people. And the way you collect it is just collect from anyone. As soon as you are done interviewing someone, whoever comes next, get information from them, interview them, collect information. Now the question is, what type of sampling technique was used? So that is what we are trying to answer. So number one, of course, we know we have the I hope I didn't drop out of the call. I received a phone call. Okay. Yeah, but I think my screen might be missing. So just give me a second. Let me do that. Okay. Let me try to get my screen back online. Yeah, so why do you or what approach do you think we are using for this particular question? Case study, not question, case study. So feel free to unmute the mic if you have an answer, or if you want to give it to give it an attempt.
Yes, sir. Just an attempt.
Yes, sir.
Are we using qualitative approach because of the sampling technique in interviews?
Okay, I'm listening. Can go on.
Therefore, I think if we're using qualitative, then meaning it's going to be non-probabilistic, and then we'd have to use one of those.
Hello. Okay.
Techniques and the non-proper, maybe something like snowballing sampling. I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. No, thank you very much.
Techniques and qualitative, yes.
Okay. No, you are actually very very close to that. Okay. Anyone else who might want to add on? Okay. All right. So let's see. Let's proceed. Okay. So yes. So it's actually true. Although there's still a debate on this particular one, but it's true. We are using a qualitative research approach, and the reason is because in the case study there, they have told us that an interviewer is posted at the entrance door and asked to collect a sample of 100 opinions. Now, the definition of quantitative research is quantitative is usually interested in quantifying things or figures, can be numbers. On the other hand, we have qualitative research. Qualitative research is interested in understanding the opinions, the beliefs, and the values of your participants of that to that research study. So we can argue that the research approach that was being used in this study is a qualitative research approach.
I have a question.
Yes, yes, please.
If I write induction approach, is it correct?
Okay, so how can you justify an induction research approach?
During the time when we were learning on the applications, the madam mentioned about induction in the deduction approaches, which mean one and the same thing as quantitative.
Hello? I think I didn't get that one, the last part clearly. What are you saying?
You didn't get me.
Okay, so okay, no, I think I understand what you are saying. So you are saying, why can't we use an induction approach? Is that the question? Hello, am I correct to
Network is breaking, sir.
my network is breaking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, so just give me a second. I think it's actually my phone.
It's clear now.
All right.
It's clear now.
All right. So thank you very much. Okay. So why are we not using the induction approach for this case study? Because okay, so on the approaches, first of all, we know, of course, when we are talking about the research onion, you start with your what do you call them, your philosophies. We have the four most common ones, five sometimes. We have the positivism, we have what is called critical realism, and then we have I think the interpretivism approach, and then we have postmodernism, and then the last one is pragmatism. So we have those two spectrums. So those are philosophies. Those ground you. They guide what type of worldview you use when looking at data. So now from your philosophies, we come to your approaches. So we have three, I think, major approaches. We have the deduction approach, we have the abduction approach, and then we have the induction approach. Now, those approaches are used when you are developing your theories. So please, that must be very clear. Your research approaches, the deduction, the induction, and the abduction, those are used when you are developing your research or when you're developing your theories for the research you're going to use. That is why we use those approaches, and usually you're going to use them when you're doing your PhD. Yeah, that's right. That's when you can use either of those approaches. So those are usually used for theory development, to defend your philosophies and to defend your yeah, especially your philosophies. Yes. Then from there, we use a general word for approach, although sometimes we can call them techniques and procedures. But the general method we use is to approach, which is the mixed methods approach, technique, the quantitative, the qualitative. There are a lot, by the way. We have the mixed, the multi-method technique. There's the multi-method qualitative, the multi-method quantitative, but those are other things. We don't care about those here. Yeah. So, but I hope you are clear on the approaches. We use induction, abduction, and deduction when we want to develop theory. But our case here is not a theory development case. Yeah. So this is a real. Hello? Am I audible? Alright, so thank you very much. Do you have any questions on that?
I'm clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So let's go to our last part. So present two advantages of using interviews in the above scenario. Now that question about interviews, by the way, it comes almost always. So please just know the advantages of using questionnaires, of using interviews, or of using qualitative studies, and of using quantitative studies. So those or approaches, yeah, so approaches. So these questions repeat very much in most of the papers that you have, or that have been written, the exams. Okay, so what are the advantages of using interviews in our above scenario? The first advantage is immediate clarification. So immediate clarification. Let me try to write it there. So the advantages of using interviews. So the first one we are saying is immediate clarification. Okay, so what do we mean? Of course, this is self-explanatory. The interviewer can explain questions, you can clarify doubts, and you can ensure that the respondents or the respondent clearly understands the question before answering. So this is the first advantage of a qualitative study or an interview. Immediate clarification. Yeah, immediate clarification. Of course, it's not such when you're doing especially a closed-ended questionnaire. Yeah, that's why many people desire to build semi-structured or open-ended. Sometimes they just leave some questions which are open-ended questions in their questionnaires, so that people can clarify their thoughts. So this is the first advantage. The second advantage in relation to our case on top there is that we are going to have a higher response rate. Yeah, higher response rate. So, I mean, if you have conducted a study before with those hard copy questionnaires, you know that you must always overprint. You have to print more than your sample size. Why? Because self-administered surveys, people rarely respond. But interviews encourage participation, reducing the risk of non-response or incomplete answers. So that is a very big advantage of using interviews in a study. Of course, what UNZA does these days is UNZA allows you, and they like it that way. So please just take note. They like it if you combine both a qualitative approach and a quantitative approach in one study. Yeah, so that would be that would depend on the type of objectives that you have for your study. Yeah, so this is the second advantage. The last advantage that we have is that we can have detailed, or we can collect detailed information, yeah, or in-depth information. So we know that interviews allow for us to collect in-depth responses. Yeah, which of course we know it provides, it makes our data more rich as compared to other methods of collecting data like surveys. So these are the advantages. We have a lot. We are going to cover some of them next week. We have a question about that. Okay, so quickly in the remaining few minutes, let's transition and do the first part of our other question. The question paper that I've shared, that is a 2020 exam paper. Yeah, so you can open it quickly. Yeah, so that was the 2021, yeah, the March 2021 exam. Okay, so let's do the first part of that question. Okay, so let's do that. Let me do this.
Did you share November 2020?
Shared,
I thought you shared.
sorry, I shared. Okay, so it's open it. It should be just open it. Inside, I think it says 2021. I think there was a mistake on the naming of the paper. The actual exam was for 2021. Yes, November 2020. That is the when you open it. I hope yeah, I hope you are not reading the November 2020 cohort. Mm. Please don't read the November. Yes, yes. That. Yeah. Okay, so that is our question. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, so I think I've read these questions. And anyone who wants to volunteer to read for us the question quickly?
Yes, sir.
Oh, please, go ahead.
Okay, so section A, compulsory question. It seems that when we make a conscious effort not to think about something specific, we can't help but think of it. Is the correct question, sir?
Yes, yes, yes. Please, can you continue?
Okay.
Yes.
It seems that when we make a conscious effort not to think about something specific, we can't help but think of it. Researchers investigated this using a self-report. Participants were instructed, do not think of a white there. Each participant was studied for a period of 5 minutes, during which time they had to say aloud what they were thinking. Following this, a short interview was conducted with each participant to ask them some questions about how they felt about the task. The findings are presented in Table 1. The number of participants are 10, and the number of times thoughts about a white bear were reported during the 5-minute period. Participant 1, 8 times. Participant 2, 14 times. Participant 3, 2 times. 4, 15 times. 5, 16 times. 6, 12 times. 7, 21 times. 8, 11 times. 9, 7 times. And 10, 10 times. A. Outline 4 findings from the data in this table. 8 marks. B. Describe how an appropriate descriptive
All right, sir. Thank you very much. I think you have wonderfully read our question. Thank you very, very much for that. Okay. All right. So let's start. So that's our question. What are we supposed to do? Question part A. So they have told us to outline 4 findings from the data in this table. Now, when you look at the table, it's like you have conducted a study, you have analyzed your data, so you have presented your data. So this is a data presentation from your findings. Now they have requested you to interpret your data, the data that you have found. Now, what are you able to see? What is the interpretation of the data there? That is what they are requesting us to say or to write about. So the first thing that you can notice from your data, at least that I was able to notice, is that there is variability in reported thoughts. So that is the first finding of that table, the table that we have. There is variability in reported thoughts. What do we mean by variability in reported thoughts? Look at the table. Look at the number of participants and then look at their thoughts. So we are saying that the number of times participants reported thinking about a white bear varied significantly, ranging from the lowest of 2 to the highest, which is 21 times during the 5-minute period. So that is our first point. Yeah, so our first point we are saying is the variability in reported findings. So just give me a second, I'll be back very soon. Samir.
Sorry to disturb.
No problem.
Is that
That's
a knife from table?
I'm just using it.
Yes.
And if I remove it, I can see my phone.
When there's no picking, then it's okay.
Mungaza na phone.
He's not picking, so I'm trying to just pick
Oh.
myself. Please.
Oh, Botson, I think has an F1. Mr. Mulanga. Okay, Botson. Okay, all right. So that is the first point, that we have variability in reported findings. That is the number of times participants reported thinking about a white bear varied significantly, ranging from 2 all the way to 21 times during the 5 minutes, the 5-minute period. So that is number 1. And the second observation from our data is the high frequency of thoughts. So we can say a high frequency of thoughts. So what do we mean by high frequency of thoughts? So look at your data again. Look at the data. We have 10 participants, and then against them is the number of thoughts, the number of times they thought about the bear in 5 minutes, within 5 minutes. Now, here we're saying that most participants, if you look at the table, most of your participants reported thinking about a white bear frequently. That is 7 out of 10 participants reporting 10 or more instances. So 7 out of 10 thought about a white bear at least 10 or more times. So that is what we mean by the high frequency of thoughts. Yeah, that's like 2 times in 1 minute. Okay, so if we are good, we can talk about the third point. So we can talk about the lowest frequency also. Yes, so lowest and highest frequencies. So this is our observation, by the way. This is how you'll be interpreting your data when you do analysis. So the lowest frequency. So participant number 3. I hope you are looking at the table. Participant number 3 reported the lowest number of thoughts about a white bear only 2 times in 5 minutes. So that is our lowest frequency. We can also observe our highest frequency. So we can see our highest frequency. Our highest frequency. So what is our highest frequency there in our table? Let's see, 21. Okay. So participant 7 reported their highest number of thoughts about a white bear. That is 21 times within a period of 5 minutes. That is quite high. Yeah. So that is quite high. So those are our 4 points for our 8 marks. Yeah. Of course, you can observe anything else if you want. You can talk about the fact that let me give you an extra one here, I think. Yeah. Am I dropping? Can you hear me? Hello? Are you able to hear me? Interpret what you're able to see from the case, from the table. Let me give you a simple example. For example, one thing that that actually every one of us will agree with here is that no participant in our table, no participant successfully avoided thinking about the white bear entirely. That is true. Why is it true? Because when we look at our table, there's no 0 there. Okay. Also, you can say that from the table, no participant thought about a bear more than 21 times or less than 2 times. That is all the information we can derive from the table. That is from the head. Just looking at the table, you can be able to say that. Are we okay? All right, madam. Thank you very much. Okay, so that is our question 1. I'm rushing somewhere, so I think we can end here. I have recorded the session, so I'll share it. So don't stress very much if you missed a part. Yeah, I'll share the session. Do you have any other question before we can quit tonight? Don't worry. I think next